So you had the chance to redraw the borders after World War II, and I gotta say that I'm disappointed that only 14 people partook. Nonetheless, 14 is still better than 0. You also chose with a whopping 83% that I should, in case of a tie, follow the path that is further away from reality. I should probably mention that I got the idea from Emperor Tiger Star and Possible History. Emperor Tiger Star made the First World War on his channel, which I will link, and Possible History made the Napoleonic Wars, followed by the Scramble for Africa. HD Now 2 makes the Second World War. I'll link his channel as well. I should also say that I only focused on the map, and not political ramifications, except for whether a country is independent.
Are you sure about that?
But I'll do a video about this next week. Now, without further ado, let's start. Right off the bat, one can tell which countries you like, namely Germany, pretty much all of Eastern Europe, and Ethiopia. Meanwhile, you don't like Italy or the Soviet Union. Let's start with Germany. You voted with 40% of the vote that East Prussia should belong to East Germany. With the second most popular option, namely that East Prussia should be independent, only got 2/3 of that. Then with a huge landslide of 78.6% you voted for East Germany to control Silesia as well. East and West Pomerania too became German, which means that all the lands Germany lost in the East remain a part of Germany. Schleswig-Holstein became the first tie, as 35.7% voted for Germany to keep it and 35.7% voted for Denmark to get it, and since you voted for me not to follow the historical path, Denmark gets Schleswig-Holstein, which they lost in 1864. This is their reward for fighting for 6 hours on the Allied side. With a clear majority you voted for the Bakker-Schut plan not to be followed. In case you don't know what the Bakker-Schut plan is, it was a Dutch proposal to enlarge the Netherlands and drive out the Germans living in these regions. A total of 3 plans were made with Hesse and less demands, but they got nothing except for a small piece of land, which Germany bought back a few years later. Exactly 50% of you voted for the Rhineland to stay German. You voted for the American, British, and French occupation zones to unite into West Germany with a 71.4% absolute majority each. You also voted with 64.3% that Germany should get the Soviet occupation zone as well, meaning that not only did Germany stay united, but also keep its eastern holdings. They only lost Schleswig-Holstein. East Germany is the first Warsaw Pact member that won't be a part of the pact anymore, but we'll see that a lot. The last change for you to shrink Germany was with the Saarland Protectorate, but with a 50% majority you voted for it to remain a part of Germany at the dismay of every Rhineland Palatine. Now, let's take a look at Poland, shall we? Poland gets to keep Kresy, meaning that with Germany not making any territorial losses, their border is just like in 1939. You also voted for Poland to be independent as well, so that's Warsaw Pact member that is gone. Number 2. Czechoslovakia didn't get as much of a nice treatment as Poland, but still got a better deal than what happened in OTL. Czechoslovakia was allowed to stay independent as well, but you couldn't agree whether Czechoslovakia or Germany should keep the Sudetenland, and so I have to give it to Germany, creating this border gore that makes me want to stab my eyes out. You guys also wanted southern Slovakia to stay Hungarian, and just by 1 vote for the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic to get Carpathia. But since the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic doesn't border Carpathia, it is given to Hungary. Remember when I said that you created some serious border gore? Well, I have to thank you because you wanted Germany to Anschluss Austria, again making this map nicer to look at. Austria, now Germany also gets South Tyrol, and Yugoslavia not only gets Istria, but also Trieste with 35.7%. At least you guys let Italy keep free alive with a 50% majority. You also let Austria keep Carinthia, meaning Tito won't get to form his greater Yugoslavia. As for Albania, the race was close, but with a 46.2% simple majority you voted for Albania to be an independent anti-communist country. As for Kosovo, you favored Yugoslavia over Albania. I'm sure the comments won't erupt into chaos. With a whopping 76.9% landslide you wanted Greece to take northern Epirus from Albania. Again, the comments will surely be peaceful. As for Greek Macedonia and Thrace, you let Greece keep it, and they also fought the Decans from Italy. While you weren't the biggest fans of Italy, at least you weren't crawl to pizza land, because you clearly want them to stay as one independent country. Another tie opened up in southern Dobruja between Romanians and the Mongols, and so I have to give it to Romania. Maybe they just pickpocketed it. You also want Romania to keep Bessarabia and northern Bukovina, meaning they get to keep their pre-World War II borders. As for Finland, you let them keep their pre-Winter War borders, and with a 61.5% majority you voted for the Baltics to stay independent, meaning Eastern Europe barely changed at all. With that, Europe is done. Now, let's look at Africa. For the most part, you guys were clear in what you want. Libya becomes one independent country with 61.5% of the vote. Ethiopia remains independent with 84.6%, which is the biggest landslide in all of this. Ethiopia also got Eritrea and Somalia with 61.5% each. The one part you couldn't agree on was Jubaland, with 50% wanting Somalia to get it and 50% wanting British Kenya to get it back. And so I have to give it to the British, who gave it to the Italians in 1924. With Europe and Africa being finished, all that is left is Asia. On Iraq, you guys were divided on whether to follow our own timeline or to create an independent Kurdish state on Basra. In case you don't know, Basra is Kurdish and means south and refers to southern Kurdistan or the part of Kurdistan in Iraq. With that one not being what happened in OTL, Kurdistan gets established. For southern and central Iran, so the parts the British occupied, you couldn't agree whether to follow OTL or to split Iran along ethnic lines, and so I have to intervene and split up Iran for doing nothing. As for northern Iran, so the parts the Soviets occupied, you wanted it to be returned to Iran, but this means I have to split northern Iran up as well. For Thailand, a clear 69.2% absolute majority chose that nothing happens, while for Manchuria a simple 38.5% simple majority voted for the restoration of the Qing dynasty with Pai as its emperor. For Korea, you guys were divided on leaving it alone or giving all of it to the US. None of these happened in OTL, but the first one happened to 0% and the other to 50%, and so I have to go with the first and Korea is left alone. You guys wanted China to take Taiwan and for the Ryukyu Islands to remain Japanese. With a 38.5% simply majority, you guys voted for the South Seas mandate to become an independent nation. Meanwhile, the Kuril Islands and South Sakhalin were given to the Soviet Union. Lastly, you guys voted for Japan to get the same treatment as in OTL. Overall, Germany actually is larger than after World War I but is still smaller than before World War II, as they don't hold Czechia and Slovakia anymore. Meanwhile, the Soviets lost all of their gains from 1939 to 1941 and the Warsaw Pact. Now the Bucharest Pact only contains Romania, Bulgaria and Hungary. Poland, Czechoslovakia and the Baltics meanwhile stay close to the west. And while Bulgaria didn't grow in World War II, Hungary did. Meaning things are now balanced again. As for Italy, they had to make a few more concessions, while Japan got exactly the same treatment as in war own timeline. But nobody's got as punished as Iran, which is split along ethnic lines. If you likes the episode, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye.